What would you do if your 8-year-old daughter asked to give her dinner away to a stranger? At an upscale restaurant in downtown Seattle, millionaire tech entrepreneur Marcus Chun was about to order his daughter's favorite meal when she tugged his sleeve and whispered 5 words that would shatter his perspective forever. "Dad, can I share my meal?" The woman she was pointing to sat alone at the next table, quietly crying while staring at a menu she clearly couldn't afford. What happened in the next 60 minutes didn't just reveal the stunning gap between wealth and struggle in modern America. It exposed a truth about empathy, privilege, and what we teach our children when we think they're not watching. It was supposed to be a celebration dinner. Marcus Chun had just closed a $40 million deal that would expand his software company into 12 new markets. His daughter Lily, 8 years old and wise beyond her years, had asked to go to Camless, one of Seattle's most prestigious restaurants, because she'd heard her father talk about it as the place where important things happened. Marcus had reserved a window table with views of Lake Union, ordered sparkling cider for Lily, and was ready to toast their good fortune. But Lily wasn't paying attention to the menu or the view. She was watching the woman at the table beside them. The woman appeared to be in her early 30s, wearing clothes that had clearly seen better days. Her coat was draped over the chair, and Marcus could see it was threadbare at the cuffs. She'd been seated for 15 minutes, holding the menu with trembling hands, her eyes scanning the prices with an expression that moved from hope to resignation with each passing second. A waiter approached twice, and twice she asked for just a few more minutes. Marcus watched as she discreetly wiped tears from her cheeks, trying to compose herself while surrounded by wealthy diners who didn't notice or didn't care. Lily, however, noticed everything. She'd been born into privilege, but had somehow developed the rare ability to see beyond her own experience. "Daddy," she whispered, "that lady is sad. And I think she's hungry but doesn't have enough money. Can I give her my dinner?" Marcus felt something shift inside him. He'd spent decades building wealth, networking with other successful people, insulating himself in circles where everyone had plenty. He'd written checks to charities and felt good about his philanthropy. But his 8-year-old daughter had just done something he'd forgotten how to do. She'd seen another human being suffering and immediately wanted to help, not with abstract donations, but with concrete action and personal sacrifice. Marcus had a choice in that moment. He could dismiss his daughter's impulse as childish naivety, order 2 expensive meals, and teach her that some problems aren't hers to solve. Or he could follow her lead and see where empathy took them. He chose the latter. "Let me talk to her first, sweetheart," he said softly. "Sometimes people are going through private struggles, and we need to be respectful." He stood up, walked to the woman's table, and knelt down so he wouldn't be towering over her. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I don't mean to intrude, but my daughter noticed you might be having a difficult evening. Would you allow us to buy you dinner? No strings attached, no judgment. Just one human being helping another." The woman looked up, startled and embarrassed. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, and she was a single mother of 2 who'd been working 3 jobs to make ends meet after her husband left her with nothing but debt and broken promises. Tonight was supposed to be a rare celebration. She'd just completed her nursing degree after 5 years of night school, while raising her children and working during the day. She'd saved money for months to buy herself one nice meal at one nice restaurant to mark this achievement that had cost her everything to accomplish. But when she'd arrived and seen the prices, reality crashed down. Even her careful savings weren't enough. She'd been sitting there trying to decide between ordering the cheapest item and pretending it was enough, or walking out in humiliation. "I don't know what to say," Sarah whispered, tears flowing freely now. "I thought I could finally do something nice for myself, but I miscalculated. I should have known better." Marcus felt his own eyes burning. "You didn't miscalculate anything," he said firmly. "You worked incredibly hard for something you deserved, and tonight you're going to celebrate properly. My daughter and I would be honored if you'd join us at our table." Sarah hesitated, pride warring with need, but something in Marcus's face told her this wasn't pity. It was recognition of her worth and an invitation to be seen, not as a charity case, but as a fellow human being deserving of celebration. What unfolded over the next hour was one of the most meaningful conversations Marcus had experienced in years. Sarah joined them at their table, and Lily immediately began asking questions with the beautiful directness of childhood. "What are you celebrating?" she asked. Sarah explained her nursing degree, The years of sacrifice, the nights she'd studied while her children slept, the times she'd chosen textbooks over groceries. Lily listened with rapt attention, then said something profound. "You're like a superhero, but in real life." Sarah laughed through her tears, and Marcus saw her shoulders relax for the first time since she'd entered the restaurant. As they ate, Sarah shared her story with a vulnerability that comes when strangers offer unexpected kindness. She described the moment her husband walked out, leaving her with two children under 5, no college degree, and a stack of bills she couldn't pay. She talked about the shame of using food stamps while working 40 hours a week, of her children wearing donated clothes while she wore the same 3 outfits in rotation. She explained how she'd decided that education was her only path out of poverty, how she'd applied for every scholarship and grant available, how she'd studied in hospital cafeterias during breaks between her housekeeping shifts. And she shared her dream: to work in pediatric oncology because she wanted to bring comfort to children and families facing the worst moments of their lives. Marcus found himself confronting uncomfortable truths about the world he'd insulated himself from. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, over 38 million Americans live in poverty, and nearly half of them work full-time jobs. The wealth gap in America has reached levels not seen since the 1920s, with the top 1% owning more wealth than the entire middle class combined. But statistics don't capture what poverty actually looks like. It's a nursing student who can't afford to celebrate her own achievement. It's a mother who budgets every dollar and still comes up short. It's the invisible struggle happening at tables right next to the comfortable and wealthy, separated by mere feet, but seemingly unbridgeable distance. Day's dessert arrived. Lily asked Sarah a question that cut to the heart of everything. "Do your kids know how hard you worked for them?" Sarah nodded, her voice thick with emotion. "I hope so. I try to show them that no matter how hard life gets, we don't give up. We keep fighting for something better." Lily turned to her father with an expression of such serious contemplation that Marcus held his breath. "Daddy, we have so much money. Why do people like Sarah have to fight so hard when we could just help them?" It was the question Marcus had been avoiding his entire adult life, hidden behind the comfortable myth that wealth was purely earned and poverty purely a result of insufficient effort. His 8-year-old daughter had just shattered that illusion with the clarity that only children possess. The truth was more complex and more uncomfortable. Marcus had indeed worked hard, but he'd also been born into a stable family, had access to excellent education, had networks that opened doors, had safety nets when he failed, and had never once had to choose between food and textbooks for his children. Sarah had worked just as hard, arguably harder, but without those foundational advantages, her path had been exponentially more difficult. Marcus made a decision in that moment that would redirect the trajectory of his life and business. He asked Sarah about her plans after graduation, her challenges, her dreams. He learned that she had a job offer at a local hospital but couldn't afford the required work clothes, reliable transportation, or childcare that would allow her to accept it. He learned that she had student loan debt that would take 20 years to repay. He learned that despite having achieved something extraordinary, she was still one emergency away from catastrophe. And he decided that this wouldn't be a one-time charitable gesture. It would be the beginning of something systematic. Marcus paid for dinner, but that was the smallest part of what happened that night. He offered Sarah a position in his company managing a new healthcare initiative he'd been planning, with a salary that would finally allow her to breathe, comprehensive benefits, and flexible hours that would let her be present for her children. He established a scholarship fund in her name for single parents pursuing degrees in healthcare fields. He created a mentorship program that paired his successful colleagues with individuals trying to break cycles of poverty through education. And most importantly, he committed to teaching his daughter that wealth carried responsibility, that privilege demanded action, and that the true measure of success wasn't what you accumulated but what you gave away and who you helped rise. Sarah's life transformed in ways that seemed impossible just hours earlier. She accepted the position, completed her student loan payments within 2 years through the higher salary, and eventually did achieve her dream of working in pediatric oncology. But she never forgot the night a little girl noticed her suffering and a father listened to his daughter's wisdom. She now mentors other single parents, sharing not just practical advice, but also the message that kindness from strangers can arrive exactly when you've lost hope that anyone sees you or cares. Lily learned something that night that no amount of money could buy. That empathy matters more than wealth, that seeing people matters more than ignoring them, and that asking, "Can I share my meal?" might be the most important question we can teach our children to ask. She's now 15 and volunteers at organizations serving families experiencing poverty, carrying forward the lessons she learned when she was 8 years old and watched her father choose compassion over comfort. This story asks us to confront questions we'd often rather avoid. How many Sarah Mitchells do we pass every day without seeing? How many people are fighting battles we know nothing about while we celebrate victories we take for granted? And what would change if we taught our children to notice suffering instead of looking away, to share instead of hoard, to see the humanity in strangers instead of seeing obstacles or inconveniences? Marcus often says that Lily taught him more about leadership in 5 words than he'd learned in 20 years of business school and board meetings. Because real leadership isn't about accumulating power or wealth. It's about noticing who's struggling, asking how you can help, and then actually helping in ways that restore dignity rather than just dispensing charity. It's about raising children who understand that privilege carries responsibility and that their abundance means nothing if others lack basic necessities. Oh, here's my challenge. Look around you this week. Really look. See the people serving your food, cleaning your office, sitting alone in public spaces. Notice their struggles, their humanity, their worth. And if you can help, even in small ways, do it. Because somewhere right now, there's a Sarah Mitchell sitting in a restaurant trying not to cry, and a Lily Chun who might notice her suffering. The question is whether the adults in the room will listen when children show us how to be bettered. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more content that challenges us to be better humans. Comment below about times when a child taught you something profound or when a stranger's kindness changed your perspective. And remember, can I share my meal? Might be the most revolutionary question we can teach the next generation to ask.